4 games into the season and Pacers fans were angry. Benedict Mathurin started off the season on fire, leading the Pacers in scoring through 2 games, including being their best overall player down the stretch against the Pistons to start the year. And Pacers fans were starting to see the signs that these early season flashes were going to finally allow him to explode like many have been expecting and vault into one of the top 3 players on the roster. Instead, Rick Carlisle buried him the 2 games after, and he was virtually benched entirely. Carlisle then appeared on an Indianapolis radio show following those games, critical of Mathurin's defense and rebounding, saying that, quote, "Scoring isn't all the game is about." Things have changed drastically since then, however. Through a couple of injuries to Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith, Carlisle virtually had no choice but to slot Mathurin into the starting lineup, and since then, he has been a revelation. Arguably the best offensive player on the team alongside Pascal Siakam since then, and doing his part to keep the team afloat through numerous injuries and immense struggles from Tyrese Haliburton. Is it finally time for him to break out and show Pacers fans what they've been hoping to see since his rookie year? A player who can consistently be one of, if not the best scorer on the Pacers roster? Let's get into Mathurin's game, the good, the bad, and finally, what the Pacers should actually do to maximize the potential that Mathurin has shown as a player. Even after this hot start, Mathurin, for now, is a player who still generally seems to go under the radar for the majority of fans in the NBA, and that's totally fair. While always putting up solid numbers in past years, he hasn't made enough noise to put anyone outside of the most diehard NBA fans, and Pacers fans in general, on notice, at least historically. But when you watch him play, you see what the positive opinions are all about. He's an electric shot creator. His strongest trait has always been his ability to get to the rim and finish or draw fouls. Ever since his rookie year, he's been an elite player in drawing fouls, not just for his role or for his age, but on the NBA scale as a whole. His rookie year, he was drawing fouls at an attempt rate per 36 minutes that put him number 2 in the history of the Indiana Pacers, only behind 2004-2005 Jermaine O'Neal. The reason he is able to do this is a mixture of a few things. He's extremely strong for a guard and has no issue overpowering defenders to get to the rim and challenge the rim protector. He's very quick and athletic, again, benefiting his ability to go up and challenge a rim protector as opposed to getting blocked. And finally, he just has a skill set oriented for this. His footwork on lay-ins, whether it be a Euro step finish or just an attempt to go up and dunk on a defender, is very advanced and something he's always done well at. If there's anything to nitpick there, he does sometimes commit charges too often, but generally it isn't problematic, and he seems to be cutting down on that a little bit from his rookie season. Another thing to mention in a positive light has been his shooting. Since being put into the starting lineup this year, one thing I have noticed is his ability to take and make threes, which has looked much improved, and signs of this were even showing all the way back into training camp and the preseason. This is a guy who shot 32% as a rookie and 37% as a sophomore, and while that improvement percentage-wise was notable, he is currently at an insane 46% from 3 for the year. Now, while that will probably come down a bit, there does appear to be some visual differences in his shot form that probably are impacting his consistency in a positive way. His form in previous seasons had a minor hitch in it, and this year he looks so much more confident rising up and taking the 3. I believe a 40% three-point shooting season is well within the potential outcomes, and in my eyes, I see him as the type of player that will eventually, in his prime, be an elite 3-level scorer. He's been making strides to get there so far, and if he maintains his form that he's been in since taking over as a starter, he may be closer to that than many have expected. What about his flaws, though? Carlisle, back when he benched Mathurin to start the year, stated he was a poor defender and rebounder. So let's check that out. At the time of Rick's statement on his rebounding, Mathurin was at 3 rebounds a game on 21.5 minutes played. Not exceptional, but if you scale that up, the only player who got less minutes than Mathurin and rebounds at that time is Isaiah Jackson, a center who is now out for the year. And he was much better as a rebounder than Ben Shepherd and Andrew Nembhard, and on par with Aaron Nesmith. Even at that time, he was a very acceptable rebounder at the 2 and 3 positions. That being said, and credit a bit to Carlisle here because he must have known what Mathurin was capable of, and was simply challenging him to step it up to the next level, because ever since that call out, Mathurin has been the best rebounder on the team, 8.2 per game since taking over as a starter. alongside his 21.5 points per game as of their game versus the Raptors as a starter. Mathurin was never a bad rebounder as a guard, but has been incredible since he was called out, and it's been a genuine positive for a team that lacks rebounding ability. What about defense? Admittedly, Mathurin has never been a great defender. He still isn't, but the effort has been there this year when it wasn't in the past. He's been more active off ball, he's sticking to his man better, he's been getting on the floor frequently, but like I said, he still isn't a standout defender. That being said, players who were playing in front of him haven't been standouts this year either. Andrew Nembhard, who while historically a pretty good defender, got 40 hung on him by Tyrese Maxey before his injury. Then Aaron Nesmith, who got torched for 50 plus by Paolo Banchero and fouled out before his injury. Mathurin, while not always being a great defender, isn't significantly worse than Nembhard and Nesmith, while also being miles better as an offensive player. So what does this come down to in the end? Simple. Benedict Mathurin is a starter, and it would be a travesty to move him back to the bench on the return of Nembhard and or Nesmith to the lineup. Carlisle holds Ben to a high standard, but it would be unfair to the team, the players, and the fans to hold some players to a higher standard than others for no discernible reason. Rick has been infatuated with Andrew Nembhard since his rookie year. I don't necessarily blame him for liking Nembhard as a player, but he's made poor decisions based on that. He attempted to bench TJ McConnell last year at the start of the season because he wanted to play Nembhard as much as possible. Then McConnell proved he was much too good for that to happen. I also do think partially some of Tyrese Haliburton's struggles this season can be attributed to the team changing offensive philosophy to start the year and running Tyrese, one of the best playmakers in the NBA, mind you, off ball, so Nembhard could have it in his hands more. Here's what the Pacers need to realize sooner rather than later. This starting lineup they were running out to start the year, Haliburton, Nembhard, Nesmith, Siakam, and Turner, is not a championship lineup. It's a good lineup, it's a competitive lineup, all things going right, but it's not a championship lineup. Siakam and Turner are what they are. Haliburton may get back to the form he was at before and may continue to grow from there, but that's just one player. And while Nembhard and Nesmith are both still young, they project as high floor, low ceiling types that play an important role but are not starring pieces. Every elite team needs one superstar, one secondary all-star that's really good at something, and a third all-star level guy who's a do-it-all elite utility guy. The Pacers, to me, have two of those three. They have what I believe to be their potential star in Haliburton. I do think he'll come around. Great shooters who have been great shooters their whole career don't just become bad shooters overnight. And the high-level, do-it-all, all-star level guy in Siakam. They need that secondary all-star to compete. And I'll tell you right now, it is not Andrew Nembhard or Aaron Nesmith. I don't know if it's Benedict Mathurin either, but based on what he has shown these past several games as a starter, the Pacers can't afford to go back to the status quo when Nesmith and Nembhard return. Mathurin has shown he is simply too good to be a backup to them and has that ceiling that they just don't have. If you can't let a scorer go out and do what he does best and take the bad with the good, and since he was called out, the good has significantly outweighed the bad, then what do you even have high potential young players like Mathurin or even Jarris Walker for? It's not like the guys he had out there over them are setting the world on fire. They've done nothing to deserve those spots, and Mathurin has at this point. Mathurin has shown enough to relegate one of Nesmith or Nembhard to the bench at this point, and like I said, it would be a travesty if Mathurin got buried beneath them again at full health. In my eyes, it's Nembhard. He's too ball dominant for his skill set and also sharing the floor with Tyrese and Siakam, and it would be better served sharing the floor with TJ McConnell as part of a strong bench unit. Aaron Nesmith works well in theory with a lineup of Haliburton, Mathurin, Siakam, and Turner as the fifth offensive option, but typically a very high effort player and solid three-point shooter that doesn't need the ball in his hands. The ideal lineup for the team is looking something like the one I just mentioned, with Jarris Walker eventually moving into that role Nesmith occupies if he develops properly, and if not, Nesmith works there just fine. The Pacers are right there on the edge as a contender, but they still have some developing to do. If they go back to the status quo, they'll end up sacrificing the future for the now when the now isn't quite good enough yet. And the what could have been of an NBA championship level team may just peak at what becomes a conference finals level team, and the players that needed growth that they pushed to the side for the ready to play now role player types will move on to a different roster either in free agency or traded for peanuts and will grow into an all-star level player without them. Much like Rick Carlisle has done before with a certain point guard that now plays for New York. In the end, Mathurin may not be the guy to fill that all-important secondary all-star high-level scorer role, but he looks way more likely to be that player than anyone else on the roster, and it would be a mistake to not give him all the tools to succeed in that spot. He looks like the type of player that could average 25 plus in his prime and would probably be doing so now on a worse team. The Pacers are lucky to have him on their roster, and hopefully they realize that and do the best that they can to give him the runway to succeed. Mathurin may be ready to take over sooner rather than later, and as long as the team gives him the opportunity to do so, I'm confident that the sky is the limit for him. But with all that will conclude this video. The Pacers have struggled to start the year, but they were extremely fun to watch last year, and I do think they're much better as a team than they're showing now. I think the rest of the season will bear that out. Anyways, if you did enjoy, please be sure to like and subscribe, and whether you agreed or disagreed, let me know down in the comments. That being said, thanks again for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hey, thanks again for watching this video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and click on one of these videos here to see more.